Assalamu alaikum. I am Salman Shikdar Shoikot and I am MPSM 8 batch, roll number 23212008. My topics is basically the assessing barriers and opportunities in safeguarding seafarer rights under the MLC in Bangladesh, a MCDA approach. So in my presentation, there are the overall overview. So first of all, I have described about the introduction, then literature review, then research methodology, data analysis and findings, and conclusions and recommendations. So in the introduction sector, so I have highlighted that ILO established in 1999. Basically, they have promoted the global social justice and labor rights, but they haven't include specific regulation or specific rights for the seafarers. And later on, in the MLC 2006 have introduced. So it is a part of the ILO convention. They have focused on seafarer rights. It is adopted as the Seafarer Bill of Rights, so ensuring safe work and fair employment. And Bangladesh basically joined the ILO in 1972, so ratified the MLC in 2014 after the 8 years of the introduced the MLC and enforced in 2019. So basically, the effective MLC implementation is relies on some factor like the national efforts, particularly by the flag state regulatory authority, and is critical for the safeguarding seafarer rights. So in the next slide, there are written about the problem statement of this seminar. So the first of all is what are the barriers to the MLC in ensuring the rights of the seafarers. The second one is what is the status of these barriers in Bangladesh. And third one is what are the strategies can be proposed to overcome the obstacles faced by Bangladesh in implementing the MLC. And the objective of the study is to identify those barriers of MLC and to assess the status of these barriers, and finally to propose some of the strategies or the recommendations to mitigate those obstacles encountered by Bangladesh. The paper significance of the paper, basically the study would be beneficial for the government of the People Republic of Bangladesh, DOS, which is known as the Department of Shipping, Ministry of Shipping, Mercantile Marine Department, Regulatory Authority, and Shipping Authority. So and also the study might also be a reference for the next researchers in the field. And in the next portion, I have gone through the literature review. So I have I have do the extensive literature review and find out the barriers from those papers. And I have total the 8 barriers. Those are the exploiting seafarers in recruitment and the placement service, and the inadequate compliance and inspection. Third one is the lack of awareness and training, and the inadequate synchronization between the national legal framework and the international conventions, and unwillingness to follow employment and contract provision. And the next one is the inadequate medical facilities, absence of legal regime to implement treaties, and the financial difficulties. So these are the total 8 barriers which I have extracted the literature review on those paper. The reference is shown in the right side. So after this literature review, so there are some gaps. So basically those studies have highlighted challenges in implementing the MLC internationally, but there are the very few research they have explored it specific barriers, especially in Bangladesh. And specifically there are no research has applied the MCDA method to identify the obstacles in the sector of MLC. And basically this study aims to assess the barriers to MLC implementation in Bangladesh coastal regions, identify the key challenges, and propose practical solution to overcome them. So in the next slide, so I have discussed the methodology of this concluding seminar. So basically it is the quantitative research and using the MCDA, and in the MCDA part, so I have researched about the best odds method to find out the weightage of the criteria. Next, the source of this data. So the basically it is both primary and the secondary data. So on the primary data, basically those questionnaire is shared on the platform like the BD Mariners. So those have the experience over the 5 years of experience. So I have received total 34 responses. So I have removed the 6 responses and I have collected the 29 valid responses. So these were analyzed after removing the substandard entities. So in the secondary data basically collected from the relevant books, journal, document, article, magazine, legislation, and the internet sources. So in the next slide, so this is I have shown the research design. So from the secondary data, so I have do the extensive literature review and do the content analysis, and some of this I have do in the recommendations, conclusion, and the limitation. On the other side, so I have we have seen that find out the implementation criteria and prepare the questionnaire and identifying the MCDA technique for the analysis, and finally determining the weightage of these challenges using the base source method. And with the content analysis and the base source method, with this together, I have get finally the conclusion and the recommendations. So on the next slide, I have shown about this on those 8 barriers. So we know that in the Vestors method, the expert have to selected the best, and expert also selected the worst. So which around the 29 responded, those are selected the best. So I have the enlisted in the middle column, and those who have selected the worst by the expert, and I have presented in the right side. So from this result, so I have seen there are the 4 categories, especially the ship personnel, port official, accommodation, and the regulatory authority. So I have shown the about the result. So with the total result, I have averaged those 4 data, and with the average weight I have shown in the last row, last column, and finally I have we have seen the weightage. So on the next slide, in the next slide, so I have gathered especially the criteria and the weightage according to the serial and according to the ranking. So on the findings, we have seen this. The first one is the compliance and the inspection, which is the ranking 1 as per the respondents. So this is the main barriers. So this is the main barriers in the MLC as per the respondent. The second one is exploiting seafarers in the recruitment and the placement service. So we know that the seafarers are the exploited. So many agencies take some monies or they have do some unillegal or ethical issues. So that's why maybe the respondents so give the percentage whatever. Third one is inadequate synchronization between the national legal framework and the international conventions. Fourth one is the absence of the legal regime to implement the treaties. And fifth one is the insufficient medical facilities. And sixth one is the lack of awareness and training, and the unwillingness to follow employment contract. And the last one is the financial difficulties. So these are the mainly barriers and the weightage and the rankings on my findings. So on the basis of the rankings, so and the findings, so I have draw the conclusions now on the paper. So first of all, the MLC 2006 is a convention that safeguards seafarer rights, both not only assured, it is also on board, it also protected the seafarer rights. So this the ensuring fair, safe, and human working condition. So immediate action should be is needed to address key obstacles like the compliance issues, because this is the first barriers. So this around the 20% weightage and the ranking the first. So we have to first resolve these issues, and also the exploitation in the recruitment service which hinder the MLC implementation. And Bangladesh as a maritime nation must prioritize integrating the MLC into its national legislation to protect the seafarer welfare and strengthen its shipping industry, because we know that seafarer are earning remittance, a large amount of remittance in our country. So government should must prioritize this sector. And failure to implement the MLC could lead to ship detention, economic losses, and a decline in Bangladesh seafarers working. And collaborations should be needed among the flag state, port state, and the ship owners and the industry association is vital to promote awareness, training, and effective enforcement. And finally, by fostering compliance and conducting rigorous inspection and also enhancing awareness, we can assure or ensure the sustainable maritime workforce and the bright future for the seafarers worldwide.